Oh, hi. How are you? It's good to see you. I promise right. At least have something that's sustainable for coming today, and welcome to our Keller Williams office, our training room. My name is Debbie Parrish. I'm an agent here in the office. My background, just to kind of give you a little history, this is my 28th year in the business. I've been the president of our Lake Pickett community organization for the last 17 years, and I am the chairman for an Orange County advisory board for Lake Pickett. For the last I've lived on the lake, so in East Orange, for 34 years. And I would say for probably the last 23 years have been pretty active in staying engaged on things that happen on the east side of town, whether it's East Orange or into Seminole County, because our lake sits in Orange and Seminole, and so I've been pretty active in the general area and trying to stay informed. I want all of you to know I've done presentations for our homeowner associations, community associations. I've spoken at the county boards of commissioners, and Dwight will tell you I wing it. I'm not very formal, and this is the first formal class I'm doing, so I'm just going to throw it out there to you. This isn't going to be a formal class. Interaction back and forth, and I'm going to give somebody my notes so that if I stray too far off task, somebody can have the guts to reel me in right here from the front row. The only time I don't stray off task is when I have exactly 3 minutes or 10 minutes to speak at the DCC, and by God, I follow a script there, okay? So we're going to get started, and we'll start, and we're kind of going to go, in fact, I'm going to do this. This is great. So what I want to start off first, and we're going to do things a little backwards, I want to introduce you first to Dwight Saathoff. He is a developer, has developed many properties in the greater Orlando area. I call him my friend. He's been awesome to work with on things. And for those of you that did not get to meet him at the golf tournament, he was our big sponsor. And so we were able to raise money to give back to our charity organizations like we've been doing the last 3 months with one more check to give out. So Dwight is the developer of the Grow. I will talk a little bit about this after, community involvement, etc. But for right now, I want to get it started with Dwight Saathoff. So thank you for coming.
You. Well, it's a big group, and I appreciate you guys being here. And Debbie, you are definitely a friend. Way more than just somebody that I, as a developer in the business of developing land, has to deal with. And that's the way it should be. I think when I got started on the Grow, which was at least 4 to 5 years ago, one of the first people I met was Debbie and some of her neighbors. And I go out to the communities, because I live in the Bay Hill, Windermere area. And wherever I go, I say to people, I have an idea that I think is a good idea, but you live here, you know everything about your community way more than I do, so work with me, tell me what's going on, and hopefully we can find common ground, and we did that with Debbie, and again, a lot of neighbors out there. So let me ask you this: who here has heard of the Grow? Okay, and the Grow, my project, is called the Grow, G-R-O-W. I just wondered who here had heard about it. I assume, being in real estate and being in this part of the world, that you probably had, but I try to gauge my audience. And I try to think about it when I'm putting together PowerPoints, because I probably make about one presentation every 10 days on average, probably for the last, well, I don't know, anyway, for a long time. And so I try to think about what it is that you all might want to know. So obviously, as realtors, I'm thinking you would want to know nuts and bolts of what we're doing. And I think because there's been so much press coverage, and probably in your community a lot of discussion and a lot of social media discussion, for me, it's a great chance to tell you what we're really doing, unfiltered, so you really know it, because I'm just astonished how much bad, untrue information is out there, whether it's reported by the Sentinel or by social media folks and so forth. So with that having been said, let me kind of get started. I'm going to tell you what we're doing, where our property is, and its relationship to the surrounding area, why we think it's a compelling project, a compelling place to do a project, and then I'll also let you know a little bit, try to hit some of the issues that you might hear about, like effect on the river, environmental issues, other things like that kind of pop up, because I really want you to know the facts. Doesn't mean you'll agree with me necessarily, but hopefully you will. So, like I said, I've been at this about 4 years. We have actually won approval by the Orange County Board of County Commissioners. We won a 4-3 vote. We were then appealed. There was a group of 7 people, 6 individuals and a homeowners association, the Corner Lake Estates HOA. And they basically were challenging the county's approval of our project, and the kind of, won't bore you with the details, but the kind of challenge, the kind of legal challenge that was made, the strategy would be, if you're challenging, you throw out the kitchen sink. You throw up everything you think that the county did that basically created an inconsistency in their own comp plan, or was something that was inconsistent with state law. So they raised, I want to say, about 60 things. They ended up voluntarily dropping like 20 of them. And then the process calls for us to go to an administrative law judge, and we had a 3-day hearing. She issued about a 100-page ruling. She has to address every issue raised. She sided with us on 39 of the 40 things. The one thing that she said that she did not side with us, she said it could be fixed by the county commission by adding 4 words, Lake Pickett study areas, 4 words, to a certain section of the comp plan. And so we took that to the governor and the cabinet, because ultimately she just issues a recommendation. The governor and the cabinet unanimously said the county commission did nothing wrong, this is approved. So our opponents are now down to 2, the HOA and a woman that lives on Tulio Road, almost in Seminole County. They're taking this to the 50 state supposedly. It's a kind of a preliminary stage. And at this point, the legal issues, as you can imagine, they get narrowed down. You don't just keep relitigating everything that's been relitigated or litigated before. So that's where we are. We're hoping that they'll eventually drop it. But if not, we'll just do our thing and hopefully we'll win. And if we win and it goes to that, then, or it gets decided by the 5th DCA in Daytona, that will be in probably about November. So that's the current legal status. So with that, I'm going to walk over here just so I can turn my head back to you guys. And if anybody has any real compelling comment or question, while I'm doing this, certainly raise your hand. I'm good with that. So The Grow is a residential farm and garden community inspired by the rural lifestyle and enabling people to forge a relationship with the land and each other amongst a working farm, community gardens, and social amenities in an idyllic setting that is steeped in nostalgia and mindful nature. What had happened was, as Debbie said, we developed a lot of projects, and really our sort of guiding principle is we only do projects that we would want to live in or shop in. That's truly the case. I don't do projects to stay busy. I'm 55 years old. I practiced law 20 years. I've been a full-time developer for 12 years. We develop really cool stuff, and I just wouldn't do it if I couldn't develop stuff that I thought was fun to do. That's truly the case. So anyway, I had this idea, literally in a dream. My family were farmers in South Dakota. My wife, about 5 years ago, got really sick with cancer, and she survived. But it occurred to me, what the heck are we eating? All of these my wife is as healthy as you've ever seen in her mid-40s. She gets colon cancer, and it was serious colon cancer. And I'm going, my gosh, where does that come from? So I just literally had a dream. Why don't we design and develop a community that's based on farming and gardening, so people can get access to locally grown, fresh, organic food? And so I was all excited, thought I had a truly original idea, and I get up on the internet at 4 a.m. and I type in, I'm thinking I gotta find a planner, an urban planner that knows how to do farming. And turns out there have been people around the country that have done this. And I found a consultant, and this is an image of one of those types of communities. And some of these imageries I created years ago just so I could explain to people what an agrihood is. So this is an agrihood. I love this because you see the relationship of the raised plant beds to the housing. So, and a lot of people refer to it as an agrihood. So this is who I found. Darren Jaffe, Farmer D Consulting. He's the D in Farmer D Consulting. They were in Atlanta. They're now in California. But this guy is amazing. This is all he does. And I love this quote. I actually got to meet him in person. I talked to him on the phone many times and his team, but I actually was asked to speak at a conference in Encinitas, California about 3 months ago on this whole topic. This is a major movement, by the way. You're probably reading more and more about it. The urban gardening and all of that. In fact, Orlando Business Journal did a huge story about this Friday, and our project and stuff I had to say was featured in it. But anyway, I love his quote here. We should have farms integrated into our communities in perpetuity. That's sustainability. That's keeping people connected to place, to food, to land, and each other. It's just a good idea. When I met him, I showed him this on my tablet, and he was like, "Where did you get that picture? When did I say that?" Anyway, 1 in 3 households are now growing food. It's the highest overall participation and spending levels seen in the United States in a decade. Millennials are growing their own food. Again, high participation amongst millennials. In fact, the USDA recently came out with some information a couple months ago. If you look at all the different age cohorts and you see the number of farmers, it's dropping in every age cohort except the young. And anecdotally, if you Google it, I'm sure you can find it, but there's been some stories about these, big whoop-de-doo bankers on Wall Street, young people that are quitting, making $3 million a year to go be farmers. And so I just think that's really cool. These are not just platitudes. This is truly what we think you get from doing agriculture in a community. You get connection of people to food, farm, and nature. You're promoting healthy habits and lifestyles. You're demonstrating a commitment to environmental conservation and the preservation of the practice of agriculture. And you're creating jobs, strengthening the local economy, and fostering community resilience. So, as a developer, primarily of residential communities, and mixed-use communities, we're always seeking how do we create an authentic, true sense of community. And it's just something about this struck me that this would do it. And just judging from the 5 to 10, I'll call it emails that we get off of our website every week, we're not even doing anything. We're still just bogged down in litigation, and we still get a bunch. We get 2 doctors a few months ago, California. So we were thinking about moving to Florida, really didn't have no reason to do it. This is the reason. Or you just can't imagine. If you go to our Facebook page, all the quotes that you see that kind of pop up on sort of intermittent slides, those all came off of our website. So I do think it really touches something in our DNA about food, land, farming, gardening. It just does. So anyway. So gardening and farming are multi-generational interests and promote family time. I can tell you in my own house with a garden in the backyard, that's absolutely true. Our 3 boys, 24, 21, and 16, when the 2 older ones come home, as they're out of the house now, I mean, that's the first place they go, is to go see what we're growing. And my 16-year-old wants his own little raised bed, so I think it really, and seniors love it. You talk to the senior housing people, that do communities for seniors, they're, as you guys would know in real estate business, those are highly amenitized projects. There's 30 things that you can do as a senior. The number one that they all tell me, all the developers that I talk to tell me that's the gardening that's the number one. So you got old and young who love it. It promotes relationship building amongst neighbors. You can imagine if you lived over here and you get your, you're assigned 4x8 plot and you're out there with your neighbors, it's a pretty cool thing. Now the GROW will provide collaborative workspace for food-related nonprofits. I wish this was an original idea, it wasn't. When I went to Encinitas, one of the cool things they have there on the 60-acre farm in the middle of this community, they call it the Hive. And it's basically a bunch of young people all working for nonprofits, and they work in a shared, common space like this. And in their case, it's like it'll be here, it's all food related. So we're gonna build and provide that same kind of facility as part of our community. We're going to work on things like farmer training, local family farms, food equity issues, and food waste solutions, just to name a few. I've met with top people at UCF. We literally think there's a couple hundred ways that we can collaborate with UCF. We do all sorts of science and research, and their students need healthy food and blah, blah, blah. And so we can provide that at the GROW. Kind of in regard to the issues, as I see sort of the bigger, broader social implications of food and farming and how we get our food and all that is, most people, you guys probably know, typical produce you buy at Publix travels 1,500 miles to get to the store. And we like to say in the GROW, it'll be 0 miles. So I mentioned about young farmers, and I mentioned to you about millennials being the single age cohort where the number of farmers is increasing. That's great news. And I think as a developer, I'm in a unique position to support new young farmers. First thing is I have land. And in the grow, for example, we've got a 9-acre working farm. We have 23 acres of community gardens scattered throughout the community, so that it's close to the individual neighborhoods. We have a 12-mile edible landscape trail, and that's with no turnbacks. So it's 12 miles of trail out. We'll have our farmers will serve also as farm ambassadors to the community. So let's say you really want to do tomatoes or an herb garden or something like that, but you go, I don't know the first thing about it. I don't know if it should be sunny, should be shady, what kind of soil, what time of year do I plant, how much water, blah, blah, blah. So this person, you call him and you say, hey, Jimmy, Mrs. So-and-so over here, and I want to do this, and he'll come over and he'll show you how to do it. And we'll even build the plants, the beds and so forth for you as well. But anyway, so we provide land, and we create a stable financial platform. And what I'm alluding to there is that the statistics indicate that 90% of all farmers in the U.S. have a second job, which implies you really can't make a living at farming very easily. Not the small family farms, which is what I'm more interested in, because I want to do that locally. So we're able to help with that, because I will pay our farmers, and I don't even like to say living wage, I like to say like a thriving wage, because living to me means that you're just, you know, taking enough money to pay my bills. I want people to take enough money to pay bills and save some money. So we can do that in a large development project. We're providing a workplace for these young farmers with plenty of public interaction and social engagement. So when I have talked to young farmers, literally from Maine to Hawaii, I just love talking to them. And a lot of times they'll tell you that it's a little lonely, because they're like a 27-year-old person who's living out in the middle of nowhere. And the cool thing about this, and you can research it, I've been to a lot of these communities, these farmers on site, I mean, I guess just imagine in your own neighborhood that you have a farmer working, young family working on your food. You are going to know them. You're going to bug them. You're going to say, I want to bring the brownie troop over today at 2 o'clock. And they're going, no, you're not, because I'm too busy. But come by at 5. So you get a ton of social interaction. So I think I can solve the issue of sort of loneliness that can come with being out in a rural setting. And also as a developer, I can take care of back of the house operations like accounting, HR, food distribution, and it lets the farmer focus on farming. I've talked about our sort of cooperative space. This is sort of interesting to give you a sense of what the food waste problem is. 30 to 40% of all food in the world is wasted. There's more water used to produce food that is thrown away than the amount of water used by any single country.
Wow.
Food waste is the second largest source of municipal solid waste in landfills. And this is my own unique thought, I guess. A person is far less inclined to waste food if he or she has a connection to the land on which it's grown and the people who grow it. When I have been to certain agrihoods and I get to, you know, have dinner or lunch with the developer or what have you, which there's a project in Atlanta called Serenbe. It's amazing. S-E-R-E-N-B-E. Just look it up on the internet. It's 30 miles west of the Atlanta airport, and the developer is a phenomenal dude. Anyway, I was sitting there eating all this food that was coming out of his gardens and his farms, and I'm going, you know, I'm not going to waste this, because I know who grew it, I know how hard they work, it's right here, I'm helping to pay for it, because, you know, normally you belong to basically a co-op to help pay for the seed and the other things to get it started, and for that I get a weekly share of what's harvested through the growing season, which in most places is about 26 weeks. So I just think this is a big deal. If food waste is a problem, I am more likely to throw away something I bought at Publix than something I grew in my backyard, is my point. And I mentioned to you about UCF. We have other big companies on Elephant Trail that we're talking to, like Siemens, for example, that have all sorts of just incredible cutting edge technologies. And we'll provide both open field and greenhouse space for these companies to test new agricultural technologies. And my goal in this all is, you kind of go, well, what's that have to do with, you know, developing a community? I guess if you have that question pop in your mind, my goal is to create an incredibly authentic agricultural experience. I think my community will be successful if I do that.
the statistics would indicate that about 50% of people who live in these neighborhoods around the country are there because of the agriculture. And so I tell people all the time, you know, if you, I don't know how many of you have ever lived on a farm or been around farming or lived in a rural community, but farming's messy. And so I often say to people, if it's a matter of us choosing between messy and authenticity, we're gonna be, I didn't say that the right way, we're gonna be messy for authenticity's sake. I'm not gonna make it, this isn't really a hobby farm. There'll be places where we have, let's say, a showcase garden next to a food and, or a farm to table, farm and table type restaurant. So that'll probably be dressed up a little bit, but this is gonna be a real farm, a real ag experience. And so I think these things bring that authenticity to the project is what I'm after. And I think they're good things to do. Sometimes people ask me, well, how do you fund this? What's the, you know, how's this compared to a typical HOA? And I will tell you, because I've never done it before, I wondered the same thing. But what I've determined and learned, and just very simply is that the capital cost to build and to plant food is really no different than paying for landscaping in a typical community. The operating costs are higher because I have to have farmers. I have to have 2 farmers for the first acre, and it's not really 2 for every acre all the way, let's say, to 10. It does start to scale better than that. But you've got work here that you wouldn't normally do in a typical community. And that's fine, because I also have many ways to raise money that I don't have in a typical community. Farm stands, I mentioned to you about, you know, paying and funding your farmer up front. That's kind of related to CSA membership. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. It's basically a food co-op. And so for $250 on the front end, you don't have to do it if you live here, but if you want to, you can. I give that to the farmer. He uses that to buy what he needs to get started. And like I said, every week they'll be, they're harvesting something. And then we all gather, you know, on Thursday night, and I think it's Saturday, I think it's Thursday night, like at 5, and it's the coolest thing. People come in from all over the community with their children and their bags or their baskets or whatever, and they pick up their share of the produce that week. So those are good money makers. A composting program can be a money maker. Farmers markets is a major way to raise money, and you'll see some stuff on our plans about how we're going to accommodate that when I get to that later. We'll have a farm and table restaurant, which you'll also see. You can have a nursery with retail operation. You can create value-added products like sauces and jellies and whatever. And then we also expect to provide locally grown, healthy food to a lot of the big companies that have the sort of the corporate campuses along Lafayette Trail. So those are ways that you make money. We also expect to have about 30 restaurant partners, and that's part of why we need to distribute that food for the farmer, because he can't do that. He's got to stay here. So you probably saw that on one earlier slide. I mentioned to you about our on-site agriculturalists provide home gardening classes. This is the overall plan. This is our, if you've heard of the term of PD, plan development plan, this is our zoning plan. It's very high detail. It's kind of unusual for this sort of early in the stage of a project. But so the long and short of it is, we're on State Road 50. This is Corner Lake Estates HOA that I mentioned. Cypress Lake is over here. This is Chuliota Road. And so over, oh, there's a pointer here, I forget where, there it is. This is the river, Yukon River. This is Tanner Road, it's a small road. This is Lake Pickett Road, okay? So when we took Debbie and others out, when we got started, the first thing, and a big thing they said to us is, please don't spoil the rural feel of Lake Pickett Road. And I said, I wouldn't think of it, and here's why. That's valuable to me. It's like I got a new project in Winter Garden. This is going to be the bomb, by the way. It's the best land in Winter Garden, and there's a lot of, you guys are on the east side, but Winter Garden's just doing great stuff. And I way overpaid for the land, but I can't help it. I am going to have the most expensive community ever in Winter Garden. I'm either going to sell a couple of houses and it goes, or I'm not. I'm going to have to figure out. But I have all these trees. Phenomenal 100-year-old trees all over the place. And they're coming in, the government always says, well, you're not going to cut down the trees, are you? why would I do that? I mean, well, same with this, that's valuable to me. And so if you ever drive on Lake Pickett Road, you know, a lot of that is heavily wooded, I think especially over here. And there's other places where it's sort of sparse, and the same down Tanner, the beautiful rural road. And I want to be a good neighbor, not just that it's valuable to me. I don't want to disrupt people's lives, but you know, we live in Florida. I mean, we have 55,000 new people moving in every year. And that represents a need for 22,000 new houses every year. I mean, year in, year out. I only have 2,000 houses, and it's gonna be built over an 8 to 10 year period. So I'm providing 200 houses a year when the need in Central Florida is 22,000. So we all have to kind of get along and accommodate each other, is sort of how I look at it. But in that regard, you see that green band, we have 100-foot buffers. And where it's not already thick with vegetation, we're filling it in. We call it our 10,000 tree plan. We're gonna be planting trees out the gazoo. We then, over here on Tanner, these lots are you can see they're kind of long. We didn't match the size because those are 2-acre lots, but we matched the widths. And our lots start outside of the buffer. So that's kind of our lowest density area. And then, and these little roads that connect to Lake Pickett Road, I actually told the county early on, I didn't want any connections to Lake Pickett Road because of people like Debbie Parrish. And they kind of were nice, and then finally got to the point, Dwight, you're going to connect a road to Lake Pickett Road, because they want roads connecting everywhere, really. I mean, that's smart planning. But these are gonna be designed, they're gonna look almost, low profile, almost like a driveway. I'm trying to discourage people from going there. But, and it also is in keeping with the rural feel of those roads. We don't have any road, sorry, my bad. We don't have any driveway connections to Tanner, or any road connections to Tanner. So, so anyway, and then in the center, so this is all the higher density stuff, and the highest density we have are townhouses. We don't have any apartments, it's been zoned out of the plan. We have in the center of the community a school site and a 20-acre community park. Orange County has $5 million ready to go build ball fields and all sorts of stuff there. I have a commissioner who would rather, I guess, spend the money on something else. I'm not sure. Apparently there's a real need for parkland out there, and so we put in our land. So essentially, not completely, but we're effectively donating that land for the school and the park. And then, then you get down here, and the red area is where we have townhomes and commercial. And also down here, you can see is where we have the 9-acre working farm. And then you can see where it says CG, these green spots, those are the community gardens over here too, elsewhere. So that's the broad overview. There's the school and the park. And so the school, my idea, hopefully Orange County Public Schools will play ball, or I'll try to do a charter school, is I want to do a K-8 that has an ag-based curriculum, because you can learn any subject with agriculture, art, science, history, social studies, math, and I just think that would be cool. I know I would, again, where would I want my kids to go to school? I'd want them to go to school here. I mean, where the laboratory is in their school property, or over at the house, or in the community garden. We're at the 20-acre community park. This is sort of what, you know, we just have some images about what that could look like. And so I mentioned to you the working farm and what we're calling destination retail. So let me tell you about that. So this is our rendering of what this will look like when you come into our community off of the main entrance on 50. And so down here, we're gonna have a lake, and I wanted that so that people on 50, when they look in from 50, they can start to already see, and in this case, the trailhead. They can start to see the farm. This road here we designed to be wider than a typical local road, and we have permission from the county in our zoning to close it every week for a farmer's market. This is an event barn. This is the 9-acre working farm. I show another barn here, but more likely that'll end up being more like housing for the farmer and the interns. You bring in student interns that are interested in farming, and they work there. This is the commercial, and I'll get to that in a second, the retail. So you can kind of see the relationship of housing to the farm and all that we're doing when you come into the community. So we have the event barn I mentioned to you. We've got a farm, and we like to say farm and table because we have both. It's not farm to table for us, kind of a cute thing that makes us happy while we're working. Stupid stuff like that. Let's see. Farmer's market I mentioned to you. The event lawn, which is right next to the barn. I mentioned to you the edible landscape trail. I actually speak around Florida probably twice a year on trails, believe it or not. Kind of sounds like a boring comment, but somebody asked me to do it once because they said, your trails are always used. Most of the trails that people build don't ever get used. So the only point here is that, to me, a trail in Florida doesn't get used 6 months out of the year because it's so dang hot. So how do you keep it getting used? And I think you gotta provide things like, yeah, we're gonna have that. So, look at that dog, I love that part. But, and really about every third of a mile, you need something interesting, point of interest. Farm, garden, school, park, whatever, orchard. I mean, you've gotta keep people interested to go around the corner. What's next? Because otherwise you're hot, right? So you kind of want to stop. So we have a multi-use trail system with a bike sharing program. And Florida farmhouse architecture. And for what it's worth, my planners told me, do not put your architectural standards in your zoning, because now the county has to sign off on all of our plans. And I said, in case I get hit by a bus, I don't want some dumb builder building typical Florida stucco boxes. So I'll live with it. I don't care. We'll go through the pain once, and then the county will kind of figure it out, and we'll be off to the races. So it's gonna, this housing has to look like a farm community, or else it's just stupid. Same with the downtown. This is all winter garden, so our architectural standards in our zoning will have 1940s style looking buildings. Yeah, very cool. Thank you. From your lips to the commissioner's ears. And we have a stable and paddock area. This is on Lake Pickett Road. This is our property. This is Lake Pickett. Right now, people trailer horses to that location, and then they go on 20 miles worth of path. I'm not sure the distance, but it's long. And then just now, so that's the project. And real quick, and if I'm running out of time, anybody, if I'm getting too long-winded, let me know. But I just want people to know, when you hear of the controversy about this project, I mean, this is just my view of it. First off, we've been at this thing since August of 2012. Yeah, we've spent way over $1 million, and I don't even have a project yet, but that's, you know, it can be the nature of these projects. 4 public hearings, all right? Plus we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meetings with folks like you all, people in the community, phone calls. I'm still doing it. I got a meeting today at 3 with community people. I mean, it's constant. 4 public hearings, 2 before what's called the Land Planning Agency, or Local Planning Agency, which is the P&Z, and 2 before the Board of County Commissioners. The county staff, Orange County's professional county staff, recommended approval of this project the whole way. In fact, the planning director, when I first met him, Alberto Vargas, he had just joined the county, and he told me, Dwight, this is why Teresa Jacobs hired me, was to do these kinds of projects. So, notwithstanding the fact that I definitely have some opponents out in the community, the county staff has always supported it. The local planning agency, or the P&Z, voted to approve this every time it came up overwhelmingly. I think one vote was 7-0 and one was like 6-1. So the community representatives that advise and recommend to the Board of County Commissioners said, we think it's a good project. The state of Florida, when you do these kinds of things, they get to review it. And they had no objections. And they have every department of state government. So DOT looks at the road impacts. DEP looks at, and Water Management District look at environmental and impact on animals and all that stuff. So they said no objections. Then the opponents that we have tried to get the Orange County Charter Review Commission to create a special rule that basically would have made it impossible to do this. Their proposal was rejected 14-0 by the citizen panel, you know, the citizens that make up the Charter Review Commission. And the Board of County Commissioners voted to approve us on July 28th of 2016. So now, 2 years ago, we've been in litigation. $600,000 it cost in 2 years on litigation. DOA, which is Division of Administrative Hearings, So they filed their petition, I mentioned to you, the governor and the cabinet approved this unanimously. And then our opponents, now there's two, there was, like I said, there were 7, now there's 2, and they filed a notice of intent to appeal. So I'm not sure they'll actually appeal, we'll see, we'll know in maybe 30 days, or it might not, I don't know. So we'll see, that's just the status of it, but we've been through a lot. So the property is, now this I think section kind of shows you the because a lot of times I'm surprised that even people who live out here don't necessarily know where the property is. I've had some people, in fact, at your realtor outing where I sponsored, I had someone come up and say, well, gosh, I've heard there's a lot of controversy. I really don't know what the hullabaloo is about now that I see where it's at. So maybe you don't know. But we're on 50. We have, it's a big property. It's 1.7 miles long, north-south. We have almost 2/3 of a mile of frontage on 50, and we're 2.5 miles from the State Road 415 ramp. And so I try to show people, they say, well, what's this like compared to other projects? Well, the Grow has 2,078 units, 172,000 feet of retail, and our density is 2.49. Probably most houses you sell, I would guess out here, is somewhere around 4. That's a more typical. So we're pretty low density. And one of the reasons why we're low density is we have 59% open space. So I showed this to commissioners. I say, okay, well, Eagle Creek. I just picked random projects around Orange County. I actually was the attorney for that one, so I had all this information. But Eagle Creek was that big. I'm not going to bore you there. Horizon West. I don't know if you've heard of Horizon West out here, Disney and Windermere. That's again, I worked on that project as an attorney, so that gives you an idea. Cypress Lakes, our neighbor, they supported us strongly. Their board still supports us. They went to the governor and cabinet meeting and said, hey, we're here, we love this. They're 4 units per acre. And Corner Lakes, who's suing the county, and their primary argument, by the way, is that this is going to ruin our rural lifestyle. Their community is literally, that's the primary argument.
Touching on some of this.
Okay, sorry. 4 units per acre. They have the public shopping center at the corner of Chuliota and 50, and they have the middle school. So that was their project compared to mine. They have a zoning requirement of 10% open space in the residential, and I provide 59% open space. And I got gardens and farms and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to ruin their rural lifestyle. That's essentially the argument. So it's kind of interesting. And I showed this because the opponents, when we got started, were all telling the county commissioners, hey, this area is just, they're invading a pristine area. It's east of the econ, east of the econ, east of the econ. So, and the Commissioner Optic doesn't know, so I had to do these slides. Well, here, this is actually done by the county staff. So this is the general area before 1970. And by the way, these new colors represent building permits.
I'm covering that.
I'm sorry, go fast then. So you can kind of see why people started calling it the donut hole.
Yeah.
And there you go. Anyway, we have I'm gonna go fast now. We have a road agreement with the county where we're putting up $26 million to fund the widening of State Road 50, 2.3 miles in front of our property, as well as 4-laning Chuliota Road. I'll just tell you, as a zoning attorney that worked on hundreds of projects in Orange County for 20 years, there's never been anything like this. And I've worked on, if Orange County's done 6 major road agreements to build roads, like I did the road agreement to extend Alafay Trail all the way past Avalon Park, or to widen it, I'm sorry. It used to be 2 lanes, it was a nightmare. My client was the developer of Avalon, so we did a deal to widen it. But I've done 5 of the 6 road agreements that have ever been done, so I can tell you with authority that there's nothing like this as far as the level of commitment. And then I hear people say that, well, the government's going to have to extend and pay for the utilities. Wrong. Utilities already exist here. This is from the county. The water service, wastewater runs by our property, and potable water runs by our property. We do have to replace the sewer line because it is at capacity, but I have to do it at my expense, 100% my expense. We're located in close proximity to major employers. UCF, Siemens, Research Park, Lockheed Martin, and the Publixes and all that stuff. UCF has, I'll just kind of summarize, they have a major expansion plan They're gonna boost their annual economic impact to 10 billion in 5 years. Because I had people come to our meetings and go, no, there aren't any new jobs on Elephant Trail. I mean, I literally have people say that. I mean, like, we don't need more housing, we've got plenty. It's just not right. When you grow, everything grows. We're growing. And then I actually met recently I did this slide after meeting with Joe Wallace. He's the executive director of the Central Florida Research Park. And I said, I'm a big, if I get approved finally, I'm a big neighbor, you're a big neighbor, you're like a mile from us. I just wanted to meet you. I'm not asking you for anything, I just wanna, and he says, Dwight, don't show me your stuff. He goes, I know it, I love it, I'm totally into this. He said, all I wanna know, and he was really just right to the point, just tell me when you're gonna deliver houses. Because I do a 30-minute spiel, I'll call it, to market to new companies to move here. Because most people, I didn't realize this, they were approved for 1.8 million square feet. They've only built 1 million, and 35% of their developable land is left. So they're out marketing. And he told me how they used to get like 40-year-old white guys that work for the defense industry, and now they get a lot of young kids that are computer savvy and tech savvy. He says they'll eat this up. So he said, I will take my 30-minute presentation and I will carve out 10 minutes for the grow. So he says, but I'm not going to do it until you tell me when you can deliver houses, because otherwise it's just hot air. So I said, cool. And this is like just the way I talked again about jobs, more jobs. This is all out in East Orange. I talked to you about population increases. You can just sort of look at the box on the left. In 2016, which is the latest data, 59,000 increase and 22,000 houses. This is Orange County's share of it. So anyway, let me just go a little further. And then I think we kind of end on, I want people to understand that we're not harming the environment, because that I wouldn't do. I just wouldn't do a project where it was obvious or possible that we were harming the environment. I just wouldn't do it. So you don't know me from Adam, but I'm just telling you I would not do that. But I want to demonstrate it. So the river is an outstanding Florida water, so it gets special protection. I live on the Butler chain. We get the same thing. Florida outstanding water, we get special protection on that water. The St. Johns River Water Management District looks at all of our plans and everything we do, as well as Orange County. Okay, and I'll get back to that in a second. But here's really the big picture on this. So the river's in blue. There's a 550-foot protection buffer, so it's 1,100 feet, but it's 550 on either side of the river. That's the Water Management District's protection buffer, and Orange County's. Orange County went further and said, we're not only protecting 1,100 feet, we're protecting 2,200 feet, which is then the brown. So then we have existing residential development here that buffers my project. So I'm not in any of the, I'm not impacting the river, I'm not on the edge of the river. And, there you go here. So when you're an outstanding Florida water, you have to provide an additional 50% water quality volume. And what that basically means is every stormwater pond we have has got to be way bigger than normal, so you can hold the water longer to clean it longer before in a heavy rain it goes off site. And these are all rules designed after Orange County and St. Johns River Water Management District 20 years ago undertook, I don't know the number, I want to say 3 million, but I might be wrong, an expensive study of this, because there was a lot of concern. Hey, we've got a lot of developable land, not at the time, not just east, but west of the river. And so they said, what rules can we put in place to make sure we don't denigrate the river quality? So we have to comply with those. And one of the things I've seen on the internet is people say, oh, these people want to develop in the Econ River Basin, or the watershed. There's 180,000 acres in the watershed, including UCF. Probably most of the houses you guys live in or sell are in the river basin. So it's just sort of a BS thing that people throw out on the internet, and then 20 or 30 people respond and they go nuts and they want to like kill me. And it's like, so I just try to show people, this.
And we just finished our study of 4,500 acres of it, and I went through a 3-hour session on Tuesday night. And so I'm going to clean up what you're.
So anyway, I think I'm done, because a lot of this is the same. We're using what they call Florida-friendly landscaping. It's in our zoning, so I have to do it. It's not just me telling you this on a Thursday afternoon. We also are incorporating Florida Water Star. So we basically are really trying to make sure we don't waste any potable water. And that's our website and our Facebook page. And with that, I will shut up. And with
Now,
that-
y'all, I met Dwight a long time ago, and what I alluded to in the beginning is for many years I was one of those that stood up, right? And I would go, nope, no, and a very loud no, and be uncooperative. Well, we in real estate, we negotiate every single day. That is part of our DNA makeup. I'm not good at it sometimes in my personal life or with growth, but when I met Dwight and he showed the willingness to work with us, and it's a project that makes sense. I'll go over this in a minute on something, but I want you to remember when I talk in a few minutes that he's on sewer. So just keep this in mind when I go into my presentation. So I know you have to be somewhere
At 3.
at
So,
3. Commissioner Dallari texted he will be here at 2:15, so I have exactly 20 minutes to do my thing.
Okay.
When Commissioner Dallari and I'm going to cover a variety of things right now. The last thing I will touch on is a very controversial project in Seminole County. What I'm going to ask all of you in this room is when Commissioner Dallari comes, he is going to do an overview of all of the revitalization projects in Seminole County coming up. Please do not ask him direct questions about the boundary line. I'm going to cover a little bit of this. It's a highly contentious subject, and you know what? They can all get their butts sued. So I'm just telling you now, I'm going to go over things now, and I want you to respect what I have to say. And so if there's any specific questions for Dwight,
Yeah.
can we do that right now before I start cranking up?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer questions. Oh, that'd be great.
I don't have a question, but my daughter just texted me, and there was a big shooting and a wreck down on LFA by racetrack, so if you're going that way, you might want to.
Okay, okay, yeah, I think I was gonna go quite that way, right? To get down to 50, or no?
No, you go
Okay.
the back road
Yeah.
out to 419.
Okay, that's right, that's right.
Somebody will tell you how to go.
Okay, thanks, thank you.
All right.
Janelle,
How many acres is the project?
1,188 gross, and I think the net is about 834, meaning net of wetlands, lakes and wetlands. So gross minus lakes and wetlands is about 834 usable acres of land.
Thank you.
My first, so you know too, 5 years ago, I took the county 100 acres of the land that was part of the grow, and the county staff said, we really don't want you just to plan piecemeal development. And so they said, if you go get more land and create more of a, big master plan type community, we're interested in that. So that's kind of how the story. We tried to do something small, and I don't blame them. They don't want, this comes in and that doesn't really match, and this looks like crap, and this whatever. So anyway, sorry.
Omar had a question?
I have a two-part question. One is, you said old and young love it, but the majority of our customers are like right in the middle, when it comes to.
Well, I would imply, I could say everybody, but I sort of bracket, all the ages. I think everybody likes it. I mean, I'm old, but I'm middle,
Omar,
55.
what do you classify me as? Just
Low middle, of course.
Low middle.
Yes, sir.
Well, I say that because the real estate question is,
Yeah.
what are the price points you're trying to target when you're talking about what you're making?
Well, first of all, I hear a question about
And the second
who
part
likes
of
it.
that is
Go ahead, yeah.
agriculture-based question, because right now UCF is highly towards technology and things that go to space race or things that have to do with technological base, and agriculture is not what we specialize in Central Florida. So how does that sustain itself moving into the future as well,
All right.
in your plans?
So back to your first question, price points, and I think people of all ages like it. So, I just like to say young and old because I think those are the furthest points on a continuum. If they both like it, probably the middle likes it. So, but it's interesting. No one's asking. Price points. This is the cool thing I think about our project. So if you go visit Serenbe or Agritopia in Arizona, or Harvest Green in Houston, places that have done this really, Willisford in Northern Virginia, I love all those places. They end up being, in my opinion, extremely high end. Well, high end, maybe not extremely high end. Where the cheapest house is $450, maybe up to, not necessarily $1 million homes, but up to 800-900. So what I like about ours is that we have every lot size you can imagine. We start with townhomes all the way up to 1 acre. So townhome would probably sell for around in this area, you know, typically 260, 280. So we should be, let's say 280. Maybe because we got a cool project, it'll be 300, but you start in that range and then you go up and literally hit every price point to over $1 million. And the reason I say to me that's cool is because organic, healthy food is generally expensive. And it's therefore hard to access by the typical person, low, middle income, whatever. And I don't want that to be the case. I want to demonstrate to the development community and to the governments around the state and stuff, because a lot of people are paying attention to this, that you can do a community and provide that healthy food and this experience to people that don't necessarily have $500,000 to spend on a house. So that's my answer there. UCF, I think you're right. UCF doesn't have an ag college like Florida does, but Valencia does teach ag. I know there's somebody told me at Litchfield, I think their school, their local school, that has a lot of ag stuff in it. UCF, in fact, I think I'm meeting with them next week to get into the details more of how we can collaborate. So I don't have a lot of specifics for you, but I do know that a lot of their technologies, they have, for example, a technology or something they do that basically makes stormwater that's collected on a project cleaner. Well, we'll employ that kind of technology. I mean, it's no skin off my nose to do that. That's awesome. So they have a lot of technology that I'll bet you can, at least that's what they tell me, and again, I haven't seen all their specifics, that can be adapted to agricultural use. So I think that's what we're looking to do. It's not today pure agriculture, but you adapt it, which, you know, technologies are adaptable.
One
Yes.
more question, Pat?
I was curious about the name and the location of your winter garden project.
Oh, it's called Oakland Hills, and I just bought it Friday. I was in Colorado. You guys will appreciate this. I had to wire $1,550,000, and I have 3 elderly sellers scattered around the country, and it was crazy. So I moved the money the week before I went to Colorado, and I just prayed that there wasn't something, because I have one seller that I know would just, if I hadn't performed, would have said, oh, property's back on the market, and I would have wasted a year. But it's called Oakland Hills. If you know the Oakland Park project, we're literally across the street. And it is the most beautiful property you've ever seen. It really is. It's so we're gonna build 17, my company has a small division. We build about $4 to $6 million to $2 million spec homes a year. And we were doing a lot of it in Winter Park, but we really couldn't find lots anymore. So I've been looking for something, just if I came across it that was small, that I could just go park and do 10 or 20 houses, and we found it. So the issue is all the costs of construction are going through the roof. I mean, as you guys probably hear, not to mention land. And so what I thought was gonna be $825,000 homes are now gonna need to be about $1 million for me to make the money I need to make this make sense. And but I've been doing a lot of touring over there and talking to a lot of people, so I think I can do it. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to build a couple of spec homes. If it doesn't work, then I'll have a builder. I'll just fire sell the lots or something. But the community is going to be phenomenal. When you drive in, well, let me tell you real quick. You guys will like this. So
5 minutes now.
Two seconds. No, 2 seconds. I'm sorry. When you come into the community, we have like a windy little road, and my idea was that I wanted to do a community where it looked like a Kentucky horse farm, where you just have a drive, you know, between horse fencing, let's say. So I had to convince the city that to let me just do 20-foot wide paved area, where typical street is 25 foot with curb and gutter and 2 sidewalks. And I said, if I have to do that, I'm not doing it. That's not going to look right. So they said, well, you have to rezone to do that. So after 11 months and another $100,000 of rezoning cost to be able to make my streets go from here to here, I'm now approved. But we have, when you come in, right, kind of a focal point is a little farm stand that we're doing. How you're going to say, God, this guy, all he's got is farm and agriculture on the break. But I just think it's cool. So you come in and you'll see that, and the trees are phenomenal. These are the kinds of trees where the branches grow, you know, off the ground. So anyway.
Can I bring you back one day?
Anytime.
I know.
Yeah, anytime, yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because I need him to catch me in case I screw up here. So, you just saw a beautiful slide presentation. Debbie Parrish is going to do it the old school way. And I'm going to move as quick as I can so that when Bob gets here, he can, and y'all let me know if I have to focus and stuff, because they're trying to, those that you know me really well know that my technological capabilities sometimes are challenged. All right, so I'm throwing up here just a land overview of the area that we're going to be talking about, from East Orange to southeast Seminole. One of the reasons I got on board with the GROW is because of all the things he said, and the fact that it is, those of you that work with developers, and I think Jack, you can agree with this, it is so rare that they will sit down with the community and go, okay, what can we do? How can we help? And Dwight saw me through 20 pounds up and down. I don't know how many hair trips to the dresser that, you know, we went through all this, making changes, right? And we would have this plan, or I should say he had this beautiful plan, and a couple of us would come in and go, you know, and he'd go back to the drawing board, really gracious about it. And he did. He tried really hard to do a loop road, similar to what Cypress Lakes has. That was the initial thought, because we wanted to keep everything off of Lake Pickett Road, everything off of Chuliota Road, contain it to 50. Well, Orange County Planning 101 has changed, and they won't approve things like that anymore. You look at the community of Eastwood, you come in by Golfway, that's the only way to the back. No. They want interconnectivity so people can, so if you're a friend of mine and you live in a neighborhood and you got a kid that wants to come to my house, they don't have to drive 5 miles down the road to get out to go 5 miles somewhere else to come visit. So believe me, when the developers put these little access roads on, it's not because it's something they want to do. It is in Orange County. That is how it is. So Dwight, I will say, you know, in the very beginning, we were always polite, those of us, and because this is a key thing, when you work with the county, when you go speak to commissioners, when you speak at hearings, when you don't like something, the golden rule, you treat someone the way you want to be treated, and you be polite, and be smart. Don't insult them, and don't accuse them of things that are not true, okay? It will ruin the relationship. You won't get anywhere. This is just, I got to give you my little spiel on this. So anyway, when Dwight came with the GROW, and I've lived out here 34 years, I'm looking at the area, and I go, well, you know what? Back in the early 90s, the county approved rural settlements. There's 22 of them in Orange County. And then in Seminole, you have a rural boundary. We'll talk in a second about this. That area is a rural settlement. Well, in the early 1990s, guess what? They approved Cypress Lakes to go in with 1,200 homes. They approved Corner Lakes. They approved, and I'm going to put this map up because it's probably a little bit better. And thank you for Jim Hall for doing this for me and bailing me out today, as I'm not talented. But right here, Cypress Lakes, right here, Corner Lakes. By the way, lot sizes could be 1/4 of an acre or less in both of those neighborhoods. You come down to Lake Pickett Road. Well, first of all, Country Lake Estates, 1/3 of an acre right here. Come down to Lake Pickett Road, make a right. You got Mandalay, 1/2 acre lots. Fontana, 1/2 acre lots. We'll talk about the Lake Pickett properties. You make a left, you got Lucas, 1/2 acre, 1 acre on the lake. Estates at Lake Drawdy, 1/2 acre, 1 acre on the lake. How in the heck, if you have half of a brain, do you say this is rural? I have done so many BMAs for corporate, for selling homes. If you look at an appraisal, on an appraisal, and you do one in Cypress Lakes, are you marking, there's 3 boxes, do you mark urban, suburban, or rural? I'm going to ask Lori, she's sitting here.
The middle box.
The middle box, suburban, no, because I'm going there, suburban. We are not urban. Urban is the city core. Rural Here is a loose definition of rural. You got one road, okay? You got one access road. Suburban, everything in between. And everything in between, you've got shopping nearby, you have employment nearby. So even though I am very passionate about stopping certain growths and protecting the area, you gotta be smart and go, it really is suburban. So the point was, the growth fit in, and Dwight did work very diligently. There were 4 of us that he worked very diligently with to make sure that those boundaries had the 1 acre lot. And Dwight has, logically, Highway 50 for commercial. He's got Chuliota Road, Lake Pickett Road, Tanner. You can't call it rural, okay? So yeah, I get passionate about some things, I admit it. All right, moving down. And let me go catch myself up. You're not paying attention to my notes, Diane. So, all right, so the Lake Pickett properties. So we have the grow that I'm hoping and praying will happen in my lifetime. So I have a place I can go walk and I can go get tomatoes and stuff like that. I'm cool with that. I actually live right here, where it's shaking. Sustany is, and it's not because I'm nervous, it's because trying to hold this thing. So Sustany is right across the street from me. Along Lake Pickett Road right here and around the Orange County side is an area called the Lake Pickett Properties. Again, we were zoned a long time ago, rural settlement, it was cluster homes is what it was zoned, residential cluster. So that meant you could have a half acre lot. It's 1-to-1, but you could have a half acre lot. It was called a cluster, and you just had to have a lot of green space, conservation, pond, to make up that other half of an acre. So if y'all are following here. So back in the early 90s, there were entitlements that these big landowners were able, if you chose to, were able to obtain. The landowner, the Orange Grove property, they all had their entitlements, which meant at any time in the future, they could come and they could develop their properties and not have to go through changing the comp plan. So this has come up in the last 1.5 years. We are, and I'll show you a quick photo of, we have Lake Pickett Reserve out there now. That's finished. This is the lake and aerial. Pickett Reserve is finished. It's done. This is what it looks like, half acre. And we negotiated, by the way, nothing less than 1 acre on the lake. Wanted to keep it with a little bit of size. The new community that they're selling right now, the estates at Lake Pickett. And then the balance of the Lake Pickett properties, which is right here. That's gonna finish off. Am I excited? No, I live on the lake, you know, hey, and my job, one of them is to protect the lake. We're working all this. So I know Bob's in the room, so I'm gonna speed demon through my stuff. So I'll go back to this real quick. So we've got the Lake Pickett properties, they're coming out of the ground. That's it, done deal. Across the street from where I live is Sustany. This was voted down. The hopes and prayer with working with the grow and transitioning to 1 acre lots is that we could get the transition all the way to the Seminole County line, is what we wanted. Sustany was voted down. I spoke with that developer who has nothing, but they are coming back in a year. So we're gonna be starting some things all over again on discussions on what and how. My personal opinion only, okay, is if McCullough ever is extended and comes across, and the bridge, this is what they need, because again, right now they only have 2 access points, Lake Pickett Road and Chuliota Road for entrances. Skimming through this, and I kind of gave you guys a little thing a minute ago, River Cross, highly controversial subject. We're not going to go there. My own humble opinion is it is not going to happen, and I think what will happen is it will be pushed through the system, and you're going to see something in the courts one day about property rights, right? That's what we're going to have happen. So this is just a quick overview of what they want to have. And again, showing you this, does that mean I endorse it? No, it impacts me personally too. And again, as I say that, it is in our best interest as a community, like when Sustany comes back, to talk, to try to negotiate, etc. What I want to say, just real briefly here, is that what is a rural settlement? What I mentioned a minute ago in Orange County, 1-to-1 residential country estates. How many roads? Well, if you're truly rural, you got one. If it's more than one, you know, now we're kind of questioning things. Get myself on task here. We talked about the urban and the suburban and the rural. We talked about the McCullough Bridge and Sustany Extension, which again, we don't know what's going to happen. Their plan was voted down, so what that actually means is they have to come back with something different. The rural boundary in Seminole County was voted on in 2004 by the residents. There, you know what? It can be changed. I will tell you this, your commissioners are passionate people about protecting you. I can say that because I know one really great one sitting right over there. And he's been an awesome friend of Lake Pickett, I'm going to say that. The last slide I'll just throw up and I'll throw out there and kind of go over is this little roadmap. You saw it with Dwight, what they're talking about having to do for their community. Things are happening. There's more to add, but we went a little long. I'll do another class again someday. But right now what I want to do is I want to bring up here a really great person that I've known for 15 years. He's going to talk to you about the revitalization projects in Seminole County. And I want you to know that this man who I've known for 15 years, and I wish sometimes he was in government here in Orange County to tell you the truth. He has been a passionate protector of the area that we live in out there, the areas in Seminole County. He really has. And has worked hard to help with growth and to do it the right way. And he is my friend and your friend, most importantly, Commissioner Bob Dallarifor. Did I go do a kiss to him like that?
Pleasure to be here. Can you bring up Google Maps, please? My name is Bob Dallarifor. I'm a county commissioner in Seminole County. I'm going to go big picture, and we're going to focus on a couple of different things. As a commissioner, there are 5 county commissioners here in Seminole County. Myself, Carlton Henley, Lee Constantine, John Arant, and Brenda Carey. What separates us a little different than other counties is that we are not single-member districts. What that means is that if you're a resident in Seminole County, you have 5 county commissioners that report to you, you have 5 county commissioners you can vote for, and you have 5 county commissioners that you can go to. What that means is that if you believe that I'm not representing you correctly, or we're not getting along, or I could potentially not be seeing it the way you see it, you can go to the other 4. That's a nice thing. So you have 5 people working for you. I asked, what's your name?
Tabitha.
Tabitha?
Yes.
Okay, I asked Tabitha. That's perfect, if you could just agree.
Yep. Pull it up now.
What I wanted to talk a little bit about was transportation. Because as realtors, you know, I'm sure you all heard about the adage that location, location, location. But I believe if you don't have transportation, you ain't got location. That's the bottom line. So in Seminole County, we've been doing a lot of things. Can you just zoom in just a little bit more, Tabitha? I'm looking for this area right here.
Oh, zoom in, okay.
So we've been quite busy when it comes to transportation. Some people may not realize that we were very instrumental in the Wekiva Parkway, which is the completing of the belt loop around all of Orlando, Central Florida. That is moving forward. We're hoping to be done with that. It's connecting to the 417. We're hoping that's going to be done in the next 3 years. It's a big project. Like it or not, we saved the biggest for last, which is the connecting of the 417, I-4, and the Wekiva Parkway all at one. So that's going to be a big project. And it's a joint venture between the Expressway Authority, DOT, and a couple other entities. So you'll be seeing that in the upcoming years. The I-4 Beyond, the I-4 Ultimate Project, That goes through most of Orange County. It goes from, what is it, that road there? Just down by the beach line, all the way up to 434, Altamont area. We're already talking about extending it through Seminole County into Volusia County. We're actually working with the state to do that, so it's going to be another project that you're going to see about it. Another big transportation project is the Sunrail project. To me, I think that's a good project. Those on the eastern side of the county may not see it that way, but it's a multi-generational project. Every transportation project, when it talks about transit, no matter where you are in the world, it's multi-generational. That project will probably take about 75 years to complete. And what I mean by 75 years, I'm talking about not just the north-south, but also east-west. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. And when do you start? When's the best time to plant a tree? It was yesterday. When's the best time to plant the idea for transit? It was yesterday. So you have to start somewhere. There are some issues with Sunrail. I'm not going to be talking about all of them. We're supposed to be taking it over in the next 3 years, 3.5 years. There are some issues with it, and we're actually talking to the state about what if and how to correct those issues. So stay tuned. The reason why I want to bring this project in, as we all know, this is the Oviedo Winter Springs area. Presently, if we go back in time about a year or so ago, Mitchell-Hammock Road, 426, we put in extra turn lanes there. We've already approved dual lefts. I always have to figure out which one's my left. We figured out dual lefts are going to be coming in from Mitchell-Hammock to 434. This intersection is going to be changing over by Mitchell-Hammock and 434. Presently, as you know, we've already completed the immediate downtown Oviedo area where the townhouse used to be. That's done.
You want this?
Oh, okay.
Just push that button right
All right. There it is. So, downtown Oviedo, north and south where the townhouse used to be, that is completed. We all know that. So we're in the process right now of talking about. Is this gonna work or what? I'm gonna go back to old school town. At my age, I'm a little more old school than most.
My kind of person, Bob, right there.
I believe in talking to the person instead of sending a text message or an email. It frustrates people sometimes that I also work for Walt Disney World, and the young folks coming up, they're like, but I sent you an email. I was like, yeah, no, I saw it. Can we just talk? Well, can't you just respond to it? I says, I like to talk to you. I said, I'm sorry. So right now, I'm sure you people on that side are going to see it. We're talking about widening from Oviedo High School all the way through downtown Oviedo in this direction. We already took out another couple of buildings.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
It's happening. It's funded. We're filing the right-of-way acquisition. There's a little bit of a problem. In fact, I've been banging my head up against the wall with DOT. I'll tell you a side story. I was looking at the plans, and I love red pens because you can really make statements with red pens. That's a black one. And I started looking at the plans and like, why would we put a U-turn in front of Oviedo High School? I put an X through that. Why would we put a road over by Lawton Elementary that a bus can't turn on? And why would we at Jackson Heights Middle School build a road with no sidewalk? And so the DOT is looking and goes, well, that's the plan. I'm like, but that's not adequate. And why would I be spending 60-some-odd million dollars? It's real money. It's your money. If I'm just going to have to go back in a year or so and rip it out and change it. They're like, well, that's the plan. I'm like, well, let's get the Secretary of DOT 5, Mike Shannon down here, and let's talk to him. So we started talking, and Mike looked at them, and he says, you know, he is right. That is a problem. So we're actually getting rid of the U-turn in front of Oviedo High School, making another entrance. The principal of the high school, as well as Walt Griffin, knows about that. We're changing the entrance at Lawton Elementary to actually allow big pickup trucks and buses to get in. Imagine that. Talk about being stupid. And then we're also are putting a sidewalk in so that the kids can actually walk back and forth to Jackson Heights. I got a meeting next week with the cast of characters, and I truly mean that sometimes, about how to address that. So you're gonna see this project actually start happening probably next year, sometime around now, going east and west. That's a good thing. Oh, I'll tell you another funny story. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, the Turnpike in infinite wisdom, because they actually owned the 417 going through Seminole County. They had a great idea that they were gonna expand 417, and they were gonna put express lanes, but they were gonna charge you to get on the 417, but if you wanted to use the express lane, you're gonna pay again. So we nicknamed it a toll within a toll. And they didn't really like that. And then the newspapers came to me and asked me, goes, what do you think about this, Commissioner? I says, that's gotta be the most asinine idea I've ever heard in my life. And whoever came up with this has to be smoking crack. Well, they actually wrote that in the newspaper. I had so many people call me up, just, you were misquoted. I was like, what did I say? And they said, no, I wasn't misquoted. I actually said that. Well, unbeknownst to me, I had another meeting the following week with the Secretary of DOT that I said that he was smoking crack. And so I got introduced, and then he got introduced, and he goes, by the way, I'm the person that the commissioner thought was smoking crack because it was a bad idea. I'm like, well, isn't it a bad idea? He goes, well, we're not here to discuss that. Well, luckily enough, we were able to convince them to get rid of that. We're in favor of widening the 417, but we're not in favor of putting a toll within a toll. You know, I just will not stand for that. I mean, that is about as crazy gets. So anyway, fast forward. So we're moving east and west. You're gonna see that this time next year. But there is another problem in the Oviedo area, and that's north and south. So we're actually looking at this road right through here. And so the process is that you have to do what they call a PD&E study, Planning, Environmental, and Development Plan. Maximum times it takes is 2 years if it doesn't get held up, and I can tell you sometimes they do get held up. The longest I've seen a PD&E take was 6 years before they actually get into engineering. It's crazy. So we actually broke the PD&E up into two pieces, and I'll tell you why in a second. We did north and south. So the first piece, and it's still the same PD&E, but it's 2 phases, because I'm anticipating it getting held up. So the first phase is from here all the way down to about, where is our T? Here somewhere. And then the second phase is gonna be somewhere from here all the way down to here. And the reason why is because on this piece, there's 2 homes across the street from each other that are on the National Historical Registry. And once I started telling people that, they're like, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, no, you're not widening that road anytime soon, but it can be done. But I'd rather not hold up this northern piece while all the attorneys in the room, hopefully there's no attorneys here, have to figure it out because Lord knows how long they'll take. So that's what's happening at this piece. So to make this go quicker, we're actually doing a feasibility study to the PD&E that can be used to do this piece. Because if anybody drives here with all these subdivisions on either side, it's almost like a death trap. I mean, I've gone into those subdivisions like, you've got to be kidding me. Lord knows. So we did put the traffic light up, what I call the Dillon curve right here, the traffic light. And it's not a mast arm, it's a string wire, because that's all going to change when this road gets happening. I'm hoping that in the plans in the PD&E that there'd be actually a circle here, that big vast retention pond area, it kind of makes sense. A dual lane circle for queuing, and then put the traffic light by Artesia to actually do the braking traffic. That makes sense. That's probably, oh, there's one more piece of this puzzle. In our plans, for the road, over here by Slavia, I'm gonna have to stand down here. Slavia, which is from Redbug here, we have plans to make that 4 lanes as well.
Oh, okay.
We can't do that anytime soon, and the reason why we can't do that anytime soon is because the 417 has to get widened first. Because we have an agreement from DOT that if and when they widen the 417, they have to widen that bridge span under the road for Slavia. Otherwise, it'd be too cost prohibitive for us to do it. Why would I want to build a bridge for DOT when they should be paying for it? Let the state pay for it. But that's how we're doing that. That's the big picture of transportation stuff in this area. Economic development wise, I can tell you that I have been approached. Let's see, over by the mall. I'm trying to think where I'm at. Macy's over here. That's been sold to a guy in Winter Park. He's trying to put a ALF there, adult living facility.
What?
Adult living facility.
Oh, yeah.
People as old as me, if you're above 55. You got plenty of time. He also wants to put a hotel there. He also wants to, excuse me?
So we could use a hotel.
Yes, we could, but hotel has to take, you have to have the capacity. We'll talk about that in a second. It's about not just room nights on the weekends, but during the week. He also wants to have 4 out parcels. He hasn't decided what they're gonna be yet. He's talking to the city about it. He's talked to us, or me, because what he really wants is on the off-ramp on the 417, when you get to Redbug, he wants another off-ramp off the off-ramp. And I told him, that's a great idea, but I doubt it's gonna happen because it is the state of Florida and the Expressway Authority, and good luck with that one. I don't see it. But you're asking about hotel rooms. Tourism, we're knocking out of the park. And no pun intended. Past couple years ago, we have a bed tax here if you stay in any of our hotels. We took up bed tax and we built a sports complex over by the mall, over by the airport, excuse me. It's 15 ball fields of different sizes. 9 of them have artificial turf, so the outfields can be used for either soccer or lacrosse. But then we started realizing is we're doing all these sports that are basically catered for boys, but we're not really doing too many sports that are catered for girls. So we took Soldiers Creek and we turned it into the first girls softball fast pitch facility in the state of Florida. It's a 6-plex. We opened it 14 months ago. If you go down to go through Winter Springs on 434, you take the 419 before you hit, what's that road? 1792. Thank you. If you look to the left,
Oh,
you see a brand new
All right.
facility. That's all girls fast pitch.
Okay.
I mean, the girls need just as much as the boys, I think. I'm not saying because there's a bunch of women here, but that's the truth. And to be honest with you, the girls spend more money. I'm sure their dads will agree. And the girls travel better because they have more than just, sticking 3 or 4 boys in a room. They want the families, they want the whole family, they want the grandparents, they want everybody there. And they spend a lot of money, and that's what we want. So it's working out quite well. We did a pro forma for the sports complex and the softball girls fast pitch. And we are exceeding our pro forma by a considerable amount. It's bringing in teams from all around the country. It's pretty exciting. We did do a program with, sometimes names are just baffle me. It's called, someone wanted to pay $1 million, and we gave them the naming rights for the sign. And it's Boma or something like that.
Boomba.
Boomba. Thank you. I don't even know. Boomba. They paid us $1 million over X amount of years. And you want Boomba on the sign? It's legal. I'll take your money. So that's what we're doing. That's what we did. Works out well. That's about all the big things that are happening in this area. You'll see more paving projects in and around outside the city. We're very pleased in 2014 to redo the 1-cent sales tax. We sunsetted it for a couple of years purposely, because why would I want your money if I haven't spent it? And so we had a bunch of reserves in the 1 cent category. So we actually did that. And so we brought it back in 2014, and the public renewed it. And that's where a lot of these road projects are coming from. Road projects and stormwater projects, and trail projects. That's where that money goes. We are opening a new fire station. If you go down Aloma, 426, right, it's down here, right before Dean Road. It's Station 29, it's under construction. It is running behind schedule. We'll make no bones about it, it was in the newspapers, in the news. They're about a month and a half behind schedule. Well, if every day they're behind schedule, the developer or the contract has to pay us $1,000. So he's into us for quite a bit of money right now, and we're waiting for that to open up. That will bring our response time back to where we believe is acceptable. We believe response time for any place in the county should be around 3 to 4 minutes. In that area, it was getting to by 5, 6 minutes. That's why we built that station. I'm also very pleased to tell you that our paramedics and our firefighters are beyond what you would ever imagine when it comes to the quality and level of service. The thing, like stories I could tell you about them, we could be here all day. We've had, over the past 2 or 3 years, the Paramedic of the Year for the state of Florida, time and time again. In fact, there was a woman, I forget her name, I'm sorry, she was just named Paramedic of the Year for the state of Florida, for Seminole County. We've had that, this will be the 3rd one we've had over the last 5 years. Dr. Todd Husty is our medical director for all our paramedics. And so we do things a little bit different here in the county, where all 7 cities, you run under our medical director's license. That's what you have. You have to have a medical doctor to have the paramedic unit. They run under his license and he's responsible. And the level of training that he does is just off the charts. It is about saving time, it is about saving lives, and the quality of service. I can tell you, we've been told nationally that we are the agency that people look to. So we have a lot to be proud of. Trying to think what else. That's all the big things that are going on. Any questions?
Any information about residential?
I'm sorry, what?
About residential development?
Residential development. In this area, probably not. The city has most of the area in this area. The city, and I'm just gonna figuratively show that the city of Oviedo comes out to about, we got Mitchell Hammocks. I mean, most of this is the city of Oviedo. This top part's the city of Winter Springs. I have no zoning regulations in those areas. All the major roads are ours. That's why we're involved. But the cities do a lot of the zoning. Out on Snow Hill Road is ours, Chiliota's is ours. I'm not here to talk, nor will I talk about the eastern rural boundary area. There's an item coming in front of us. I have to remain neutral until the time of that public hearing, until I hear all the testimony from all sides. That's why I don't really want to talk about it. But there are developments that are coming up. If you check our agenda, you can see them all the time. Yes, ma'am.
What's going into the Albertsons being destroyed?
Sprouts.
Again, that developer is also the one that wants to develop the Macy's place. It's the same person. He told me Sprouts.
Oh.
I do not know what the out parcels are.
Oh, I haven't seen.
I thought Total Wine, I heard.
I've also heard that, Total Wines.
Yeah.
But he's actually asked me to keep those quiet. I have no documentation on that.
No, I know, I've heard it.
Until he makes the what do you call it? Until he actually tells people I'm kind of quiet, because you never know if the deal's gonna go south. So Sprouts and Total Wine potentially gonna go there. Trying to think on Red Lake Road. The hospital's doing real well. We're starting to plan the resurfacing of our trails. Our trails program, you'd be amazed at how many people look to us and like, how in the world can you put so many trails together in such a small county? It just takes determination and willpower, and we're doing it. The reason why we did not put the trail in the immediate downtown Oviedo, in this core area, because right now if you go, it crosses to 434 and then it goes to the aquatic facility, but it doesn't go north. And then it picks it up by the Baptist, well, not Cross Life, used to be First Baptist. Again, I'm a little old school, I go back to the old name. Picks it up here again. The reason why we didn't do anything is downtown, the money is in escrow, because I don't want to put a trail down that we have to rip up
Till the road is.
until the road's done. So when the road's done, the trail will go down. There is a new project that we're talking about Tuesday. It's coming to me. 1792, 436, you know where the highlight is?
Yeah.
Okay, they want to scrape that. And it's called Oxford Road. And it's literally a joint venture between the county and the highlight folks about putting in retail, office, and apartments in that area. We did a big study about 5 years ago. The whole area right there where the Castleberry Exchange is and all that stuff, there's enough commercial, there's just not enough residents. And that's what's lacking in that area is residential. So we're actually talking to the property owner about getting rid of the highlight. The reason why I like getting rid of the highlight, not only bringing in more taxable value, but we're getting rid of a pari-mutuel site. It's one of the, we only have 2 sites in Seminole County. One is a dog track and the other one is the highlight. We're actually allowed to do betting. We have a very strict anti-gambling ordinance here in our charter about gambling. So if he does that, he'll have to relinquish his pari-mutuel license, which I think is okay, but he's gonna be making up on the back end by all the retail and residential area. And we've been working on that project, and I'm not exaggerating, at least 3 years. And it'll probably take another 2 years until he probably breaks through. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Well, this is your opportunity.
Are you familiar with any apartments that are on the schedule, like on Aloma near Dean and the Publix down by 417?
So there is a there is an apartment complex called Allure, which is on Aloma and Tuscola. I voted against that. Public record. It's coming back on Tuesday. Again, I have to wait till the public testimony is presented to us. The reason why I voted against it was because of the traffic implications of that intersection of Tuscola and Aloma. In my mind, it doesn't work. I've not seen a good fix. And since that was legislative about changing some of the things, I did not vote for it. But it did get passed 3-2. Went up to Tallahassee and it's coming back to us on Tuesday. I don't know what the board's gonna do.
Is there another one that's just east?
There's another one that's actually talked to us. It is on Aloma by Dean. He wants to go 4 stories. I told him that I was opposed to 4 stories, but I'm okay with 3 stories. It'd be the only 4-story in the area. That's my rub on that area, on that.
Because I think there'll be a lot of U-turning with those people.
Yes, ma'am.
Left, right.
Not disagreeing with you.
Okay, so you're not on board for either?
I'm not disagreeing with you. I drive that road, not every day, but close to it. Not disagreeing with you. Deborah, you have a question?
No, does anybody, y'all have an opportunity here? I mean,
I got a stack of business cards that you can have. Yes,
We can
ma'am.
get them back, I know that.
All about 46 and 426 up in the areas and those roads. And we're not talking about.
I can tell you that the Snow Hill Road, there are some improvements for Snow Hill Road that we're doing. Going out to Geneva, we're doing that. We're not widening the road, we're just doing some improvements. That's about all we're doing in that area. We did put fiber. We have a huge, I don't know if you know this, but the county has a lot of interesting assets that a lot of people don't know about. One of our assets is our fiber. We have a huge fiber optic network. And the fiber optic network connects all the schools. The county owns it. It's over 400 linear miles. Connects all the schools, all the cities, all the counties, lift stations, police, you name it, it's connected to it. And we can talk to different entities instantaneous lifetime. So one of the things we did, and when talking to Walt Griffin, his problem was in Geneva Elementary, he could not get the school on cable. So we actually, with the repaving program going out to Geneva on 420, was it 420? No, yeah, 426. We ran a fiber optic line down there. It was expensive, but that's how Geneva Elementary got connected. And that's how we connected the, well, the real way we did it was we were connecting the fire station, and just so happens the elementary school was just 3 blocks away. Like, why don't we connect the elementary school? Great idea, let's do it. So that's how we did that. that's the only thing that's really going on. Yes, sir?
So, the 50,000-foot view of Seminole County, you know, you have, Orange County really focused on, the city of Orlando and a lot of tourism. What is the 50,000-foot view for Seminole County
Okay.
as far as the commissioner's eye?
We pride ourselves in, I'm gonna take a different couple buckets, okay? Financially, we're very conservative. We're probably one of the most conservative financial counties around in the state of Florida. We do have reserves. Our reserves are earmarked in category in different sections, like our landfill. Believe it or not, it's important to us. Our solid waste recovery fund, it's important. Our water and sewer, very important. So financially, we're rock solid. We have very little debt because of it. In fact, sometimes we borrow money against ourselves. In fact, one of the things we did to put the lights over by the sports complex, we borrowed money from the landfill fund at a percentage of a point above prime. So we're paying ourselves back the interest rate. It's kind of interesting to do that. But we're blessed to do that. And it wasn't just us. It's been county commissioners before us as well. This has been set up since the early 90s, but it's just keeping that religiously going back to it. We believe in the 7 cities. We'll try to help every city we can, as long as you come to us with a plan. Lake Mary and us, we do a lot of economic development. The same thing with the city of Sanford. Castleberry, we do some. You're hearing us do the Oxford Road piece. So there's a lot of stuff. The UCF Incubator in Winter Springs, we're a big provider of that as well. We funded a lot of money into that area, and that provides a lot of high-tech jobs. One of the things you'll see is not just about high-tech jobs, because we brought in the Verizon, Deloitte, Mitsubishi, all these big companies that have high-paying jobs, but we're also focusing on the middle and the lower-paying jobs. So you'll see more and more of that happening. It's a good county. It's a very well-run county. Unfortunately, we are cheap. Our staff is not paid the best, but we do provide good benefits. There is turnover sometimes in our staff because, you know, when the private sector is outperforming the public sector, you know, someone's going to take a job on the private sector for, you know, 10K more. I wish you well. There's not much I can say about that. We try to keep everything in the 50 percentile. So if you look at the market, we want to be in that sweet spot of the 50%. You're not going to get rich working for us, but it's going to be a secure job. You're going to have good benefits. But if you want to make the big dollar figures, you really need to go work somewhere else. This ain't it. Economic development, we are very interested in it, and we'll always be interested in economic development. If you can show us a rate of return on our investment, and you're building a building, we're interested. If you just want a handout, it ain't happening. But if you're looking at us to be a partner with you, like the Verizon. When Verizon came in, they guaranteed us, I think it was 800 jobs. And the way we do that is you have to provide the jobs, you have to have the jobs for 2 years, and after you have the jobs for 2 years, then we'll reimburse you for those jobs. A percentage. And there's a formula we actually have. But if you don't provide those jobs for 2 years and build that building, we're not going to pay you. And there's sometimes that doesn't happen because we actually audit everyone. We audit people on a regular basis. But Verizon, they came up with, I think, a total of 1,400 jobs. So they went above the 800. It was very impressive. Deloitte did the same thing. You know, one of the things that when people come here, businesses, they want to know the partnerships. So we have a great relationship with Seminole State College. Dr. Ann McGee, she just retired. She was a huge asset for this county. So she saw the value of the partnership with our county. So she allowed, and her board, in-state tuition the first year if you came from out of state, if you were part of that job hire. Never been done before.
Wow.
It really made people's eyes open. It was a home run for us. Same thing with you know, Walt Griffin and his team. They really went out of their way that we're bringing in these companies. They're actually setting up workshops with employees on, okay, we wanna get your kids into school, how do we help you and your spouse get your kids ready for school, and I actually set up little workshops to do that. So it was really a home run for all of us. And that's why they picked Seminole County. I mean, our slogan says it's the natural choice. Well, yeah, it's the natural choice. It's not just about trees and saving the nature, it's the natural choice. Think about it. We try to hit, and we do hit home run after home run. Right now, we're looking at redoing our radios for our 911 stuff. We're doing dispatch. Dispatch, you wouldn't believe, our 911 center, because we handle 911 for the entire county, all 7 cities. Orange County's not like that. Winter Park, Maitland, they all do different things. We have one umbrella. So I think it was 10 years ago, we spent $30 million redoing all our antennas across the entire county. So we'd have more depth to go into other counties, so that when our first responders are on the outskirts of the county, you know, like in Geneva or in Orange County, we have full coverage. So now we're redoing dispatch. That's the 911 center. You know, that's another $4 million. They believe in millions like we believe in hundreds sometimes. So our next big expense is gonna be the push-to-talk radios. If we buy them before January of 2019, we could save $1.5 million. That is real money on any level. And even if we save that $1.5 million, we're still spending $7.5 million of your money. So our purchasing department was able to make that deal, and so we're gonna be discussing that with the next couple of meetings. Should we borrow the money? Should we take it out of reserves? Should we borrow the money from the bank, or should we borrow the money from ourselves? So there's a lot of different idiosyncrasies that we gotta start figuring out. I will tell you, I've been very involved, as well as Brenda Carey. Brenda and I, we normally go up to New York on a regular basis to talk to the bond rating agencies, talk to Moody's and Standard & Poor's about rating the county. And you'd be amazed, when you talk to S&P or Moody's, they never see elected officials. And we're right there with staff answering questions, and they're like, you're actually bringing your elected officials to speak. You're like, yeah, we actually know what we're talking about. And our bond rating is very, very high. It's good. So that way we can borrow money at a reduced rate. During the downturn of the economy in 2008, instead of our bond rating going down, it went up because of our actions that we took.
You guys
Sorry.
think of anything
Does that
else?
help you out, sir?
No.
I mean, I can keep on talking about the county over and over. Just give me a subject, I'll talk.
Well, any other questions?
Is there a Top Golf coming to the Lake area?
Excuse me?
Top Golf?
That I don't know. That I don't know. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my business cards, give it to Tabitha.
Yes.
Anybody wants them, they can have them. Please call me if you have any questions. I work for you.
He's accessible, I
I'm
will
very
tell you
good.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
In fact, I didn't know about this meeting till when?
Monday.
Yeah. I'm like, you wanna do what? Excuse me?
Well, yeah,
I'm picking on you, I'm sorry.
well, I had a plan, and I thought, you know what, let's make it even better and bigger, and so I thought,
So where I'm supposed to be right now, I'm supposed to be with the sheriff.
Here he is.
I'm supposed to be talking about the jail and a couple of things. Here's another piece of truthfully information. So, unfortunately, when things go real bad and someone dies and they're not under a doctor's care, they have to go to what they call an ME, a medical examiner. And we do not have a morgue or a medical examiner in the county. We use someone else's, and we've been using Volusia County for a long, long time. And Volusia County told us, nah, it ain't gonna work. We want some more money for you. We want like $9 million. I'm like, I ain't paying $9 million. Especially, why am I building something in your county? So we sent our county manager, Nicole Guillet, and she is a very smart woman. Not only is she a planner by trade, she's also an attorney. And she's a very good attorney, she's a very good planner. So we asked her to go speak to Lake County, because Lake County has 5 counties that got together to look at their ME, the medical examiner. And she brokered the deal, wasn't us, we're gonna get the credit, but she did the deal. And we always told her, if things go right, it's us, if things go wrong, it's you. But she brokered a deal where we will be able to use the Lake County Medical Examiner, and they're gonna be providing staff in our county, but the morgue is gonna be in Lake County. That'll be okay, we believe, once the Wakaiva Parkway gets up and running. The sad part about it is if there is a tragedy in your family or someone you know, you have to sometimes go to the morgue to identify someone. It's not a pleasant experience, obviously, but Volusia County was wanting to put it on the other side of Daytona, and it was just getting to be ridiculous. So it's gonna be a lot closer, and we believe it's the right thing to do. It's not costing us any money out of pocket. It's just paying for what services we use. There's one more thing. I'm getting inundated with people, and it's a good thing, about they don't want us to outsource our libraries. You may have heard that, may have not heard that. Let me tell you the backstory, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, please.
So, we're always thinking about ways to cut the budget, ways of saving money, ways of doing things better. So, in this November, there's gonna be a homestead exemption that's gonna be put on the ballot to increase your homestead exemption by another $25,000. Well, if that gets, excuse me? If that gets passed, the county income will be reduced by about $8 million. So we have to find $8 million somewhere. Big cut, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we told staff, okay, there is no sacred cow, everything's on the table, come up with some ideas, make sure they're solid plans and present them to us. So a couple of people said, what about if we outsource some stuff? Like, great, we already outsourced trash, we already outsourced the vet tag stuff, we already outsource several other things. And so I said, well, we can outsource libraries. And like, okay, if it's providing the same service, if it's providing the same amount of quality, put something together and show us what you think that it's going to show. That's all we had to say. It went viral. I get, and I'm not exaggerating, 8 to 10 emails a day. And this has been going on for about 6 months. And I get easily 3 or 4 phone calls a day that I have to return. And I'm glad to return them, save our libraries. And, you know, sometimes the itch is not worth the scratch, or the scratch isn't worth the itch. And this may be just that case. It is interesting, to say the least. I'm sorry.
Nope, I want to say thank you. Can everybody please say thank
you? One more thing, and I'm going to stop. If you're selling a home, you have a question about something with your homeowner, please let me know what the question is, if I can help you.
Thank you.
Please, whatever it is. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people will tell me, this actually happened last month. We're closing in a week, and the permit never got closed out on XYZ. What can you do? I was like, I can't do anything, but I'll put you in touch with someone. And we actually have a process to do that. Like, you do? Like, oh yeah, you're not the first, and I know you won't be the last. So, please call me.
Man, Bob, thank you so much.
I gotta run. Take care.
Thank you, Bob. We're going to pass a little bowl for your business cards, and we're going to pull out, because after all of this, I know somebody wants white or red wine. If I can get your cards, we'll do it.
That's what I want.
And I'll pull a name. I'll call you when I pull. Okay. You don't have to be present to win.
Thank you, Debbie. Sorry.
I think they look good. I want us to sign in. Marty. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. Do you know anything about